Hello, everyone. I'm Hans Engel from the Directors Guild of Canada. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're in for a real treat. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional Indigenous lands that we all live and gather on today. Although this event is online and takes place at many locations across Canada, we each enjoy the privilege of living and working within an Indigenous territory. As a gesture of appreciation for our use of these lands, I would ask that you join me in acknowledging the people who have lived and thrived in these regions across the continent for tens of thousands of years. DGC Visionaries 2021 is where we celebrate DGC filmmakers' work at all the major film festivals across Canada. This week is dedicated to Hot Docs in Toronto and Doxa in Vancouver. We're extremely fortunate to have award-winning filmmaker Tiffany Shung as our moderator tonight. Tiffany is a Peabody Award-winning filmmaker and is listed as one of Doc New York City's 40 under 40. Her latest film, Sing Me a Lullaby, won the Oscar-qualifying Grand Jury Prize at Doc New York City, America's largest documentary film festival. Along with the inaugural TIFF Share Her Journey Shortcuts Award during her world premiere at TIFF. Sing Me a Lullaby went on to win the Directors Guild of Canada Best Short Film Award and is listed as one of TIFF Canada's top 10 of 2020. Top 10 of 2020, that's what I'm trying to say. Recently nominated for a Canadian Screen Award for Best Short Documentary. Tiffany's featured debut documentary, the amazing film The Apology, earned over 15 international awards, which includes the prestigious Peabody Award, the DuPont Columbia Award, and the Alan King Memorial Award. Her work has been released around the world, broadcast and theatrically released across Asia, the US, and Canada, with partnerships with Al Jazeera, PBS, and The New Yorker. Tiffany's latest film, the short documentary Until Further Notice, will also have its world premiere at Hot Docs this year, next week, in fact. Our featured directors tonight are Sean HORLOR and Steve J. Adams, whose new film, Someone Like Me, is premiering at Hot Docs and Doxa. As proud members of the LGBTQ plus community, they've created work that shines a spotlight on misunderstandings, queer and otherwise. Their first feature-length documentary, Someone Like Me, follows a group of queer volunteers as they resettle a young gay Ugandan man seeking asylum in Canada. Sean and Steve have directed and produced more than 20 projects together, including the award-winning short, The Day Dawn Died, and Brunch Queen. They recently completed a series of shorts for Knowledge Network entitled Dear Reader, and the next feature documentary, Satan Wants You, is currently in development with the CBC documentary channel. Please welcome Sean HORLOR and Steve J. Adams, along with Tiffany Shung. Come on in. There they are. I have to get a bit of the live applause in for us. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
I love the live applause. That really makes us feel like we're all in the same space together.
Exactly, exactly. Now, before I hand it over, before I disappear and let you guys talk, I just want to point the audience to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Please type your questions into that Q&A button throughout the evening. Tiffany will be watching for those questions. She'll get to as many as she possibly can, but please put them in there as soon as you think of them, and she'll be watching for them. Also, if there's anybody new to Zoom out there anymore, top right-hand corner of your screen is the view button. You can adjust how you actually watch the conversation that way. All right, that's it for me. Have a great conversation. Really looking forward to this. And I'll see you at the end. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hans.
Thanks, Hans. Thanks, Hans.
Thank you, Ryan. And hello, everybody out there in Zoom land. I hope you have a glass with you filled with water or a cocktail or wine or tea, whatever it is that you need on a Friday, 8 o'clock in the evening in front of a computer with us.
It's a celebration.
We're celebrating. However, I do think that if we were actually, you and I, both of you, in the same room, I feel like there could be a lot of crazy partying happening. So maybe
I think there'd be trouble.
maybe this is a good idea that we got to know each other through Zoom and that we were just like easing it up, like kind of like, a blind date-ish first before we really wreak havoc, in the
And then
social.
next year, all hell will break loose.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I can't tell you how honored I am to be asked to moderate this conversation and to basically get a sneak preview of the film with someone like me. I was, you know, I try not to read up anything about a film first before I watch and not get like tainted by it and just like go in deep dive and just watch it. And I was so surprised by all the questions that started bubbling up inside of me, all the things that I started questioning about my own privilege and the things that I've really, at the end of the day, have taken for granted around just how it feels like to be an out, gay woman in Canada. And even just like how I even got outed by my sister at the age of 17, and my family still has loved and embraced me. She read my diary and then decided to out me. That's
Wow. Wow.
But even in everything that has happened to me and everything that I've gone through personally, I sometimes you you do take that for granted around just like how it is to be able to freely express, love and who you want to love. And your film really allowed me to understand that in a very deep way, even as I have still my ongoing process and questioning around my own sexuality, around the process of same-sex marriage, around bringing a child into this world. I think that your film does such an incredible job in really not answering the questions, but bringing up those complex questions that we can all have, not just in the LGBTQ plus community here in North America, but also just as people in general, especially when so much of, I felt like the theme of it was really around freedom and what does that actually mean? And what does that look like? And can we all actually experience that same type of freedom, even once we're all in the same country? Like, and so your film really sat hard with me. I watched it also alone, and felt like I wish someone was there to hold me while I was watching it too at the same time. But I also found myself laughing as well, and also having this really refreshing like take on to just seeing something unfold, and it not needing to be preserved and like it's all perfect and it happens and asylum seekers, once they come here, like it's happy-go-lucky. Like I felt it was just so refreshing to be able to just see that transparency and that rawness around that process, and I think in the trailer you showed so clearly, just by the one-liners that everyone say, that kind of hints at what, it's not all just roses and it's not just, something that you see in a pamphlet. It's so much more than that. And so I'm not going to continue rambling about how much I love the film, but
Go on.
keep going, feed my ears. But thank you so much both for making this film and bringing us into it. And I really want to spend this time this evening with everyone here who hasn't seen the film. We know that it's having its debut at Hot Docs, and I know it's a different type of Hot Docs this year, but there's so many incredible films available, including this film. And yeah, introducing Steve and Sean. And I mentioned to you both, I really wanted, because I started snooping around you guys before, because we haven't met before this. So I started like looking into, how the films you guys used to like made and the previous but I was really more curious around the dynamic of working together, co-directing, but not only co-directing, but being partners. And for the last, 11 years it is?
11. This was, our 11th anniversary. March. Actually last year was our 10th anniversary, and it was the day that Justin Trudeau asked everyone to stay home. So this was like, we had all these plans for anniversary, and it's just, this pandemic keeps giving and giving. Yeah. Let me tell you.
Just won't stop.
I mean, let's not even, being together with someone for 11 years is already an incredible feat, but like working together. I mean, I remember trying to make a film with my partner and it was like not going to happen. And it was just like too many cooks in the kitchen. So I'm just curious, how did you guys start like, what was the first project that you guys delved in together? Were you guys already in a relationship, or was it, you know, is that
Yeah.
what brought you guys together? I'm just curious to know, just also because I'm nosy too. And I just want tips from you guys as well.
How do you do this? Well, I don't know.
Let us know if you still want him at the end
Right?
of this. Right. We met, well, one of the things we met at Wreck Beach. We should just tell everyone that. And if you're not unfamiliar with Wreck Beach in Vancouver, it's the
nudie beach.
nudie beach. So we, you know,
We
we're
have a nudie beach here in Toronto.
You do? Yes. I've never been there. One day.
but we started dating, and I think maybe about 6 months into us dating, OTV had this program at the time called Hot Pink Shorts, where they worked with filmmakers across Canada, funded their first short film, and then filmed the whole thing and turned it into a 1-hour reality show. So we were like, sure, I had some background in television, and Steve has background in design, and we're like, let's do this. Okay,
Yeah.
I think we can do this together, write a script. And then they paired us up with, we did not know at the time, but like John Lennox, the producer,
Mr. Robot.
in Homecoming. So he was our producer from the queer community, which, like, we look back now and it's like, wow,
Jesus.
we really should have talked to him some more. But-
Does his email still work?
but that
that-
sorry.
No,
that was your first, that was like their first thing together. that you
that's the
did.
very first project. And then we decided that we liked it, and we did, like, at that time I was serving and you were writing, and we kind of decided to start maybe doing like video, like internet videos basically. And we did tours in Vancouver videos.
And in the past, we had written and done photo articles for the Globe and Mail and done travel pieces. So it all just sort of, we're like, okay, we like film, and we're both have no film school, had no experience. Everything was self-taught.
Love
So
it.
we started from scratch. And
Vimeo was our best friend.
yeah.
Yeah. What is depth of focus? What is this?
Well, you know, I got a chance to snoop at all of your short films, ones that I could see available online, but one of them I was able to watch was The Day Dawn Died, which, you know, again, speaks so much to just how the access that you get with characters, automatically you I don't know, it must be processed, but how open they are, and also just like being able to tackle very serious subject matters, or, you know, serious topics where you are also bringing so much also levity and humor into it, which I love. And I'm, as you know, from my work, I'm a big component of, to tell a whole story, you don't just cry at it or just mad at it, but you also laugh with it. That to me is like the recipes of like the human condition, and how we can absorb and understand and learn and ultimately connect to stories all around the world. And so I love how all of the short films that I saw that you guys had really touched on that. I can't wait to watch Brunch Queen. So you guys gonna send me a private link for that, because that looks phenomenal. And I don't know if they did that. Is that theater play still running? Because that looks amazing too.
Had a good run in Vancouver
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really all of your work really speaks to how your process is with your characters, just because it's amazing access, and it's just amazing take and perspective of it. So yeah, kudos to all of the projects that you guys done together. And clearly there's something working by doing, you know, the collaborative process, which again, I think that in itself deserves a trophy, because it's just so hard. You know, I find it really hard. Maybe I could learn how to relinquish a bit of control when it comes to directing.
I think for us, part of the reason why I think a lot of people agree to film with us is because we come as a package deal. It is one of the, like, you get to meet us right away. You see, like, we don't hide our relationship. We don't hide. It's like, if you're going to make films with us, you're going to see us as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that level of trust that happens, because it's like, we're in this together. We're already sort of a little razzle dazzle show.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, there's like filmmakers that have told us, and they're like, you're so lucky that you get to go into pitch meetings with somebody else, and you get to, like, you already, when there's two, it's a certain dynamic, but when it's three, it's different. And so it really enables us to like, I think, have different conversations. And I think when we work together, what I'm like really terrible at, Sean's really good at, and then vice versa. So we can kind of like, you know, like leapfrog over each other to work together. Yeah, I'm just always like, how do people do this by themselves? I don't get it.
I still don't get it by myself. Anyhow, I thank you so much for letting me know a little bit more of the background, because I think it's a great way to segue into your newest film, Someone Like Me. I'd love to jump into the trailer right now, and then we can deep dive further into it. Do you guys want to give us a little bit of a blurb before we play the trailer, or should we just jump right into the trailer?
I think let's jump into the trailer, and then we can talk about kind of how we came to the story afterwards.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan, if you can play the trailer for us, that'd be great.
I don't know what to say to you. Like, I just don't know how to express this. I'm crying. I'm sorry.
Okay, what do we want the signs to say? You come off the plane, you flee in persecution.
Well, I suggested, hey, bitch, but apparently it was too much for some people.
This is a private sponsorship group, and you're taking on a commitment for 12 months.
All of us were brought in from totally different areas with totally different backgrounds.
I moved to Vancouver in order to be gay.
David did modeling for art students.
It paid well. It's like 25 bucks an hour. You can make 30 if you went fully naked, but...
Hopefully by March at the latest, I will have had my top surgery. And the first thing I'm gonna do is mow the lawn topless with a beer in my pocket.
You hear one story of what queer people across the world go through. And as a queer person, I think that I have a responsibility to do whatever I can.
Kenya has a lot of refugees. So when a lot of LGBTQ started arriving from Uganda, it did not go well.
You want us to die? We are dying right now.
It was tough, but you do what you do when you're in Nairobi to survive.
I think a lot of people come into it thinking it's going to be some sort of big party and they're going to do some fundraising, they'll greet the person at the airport, and that'll be it.
But shit happens. Things fall apart.
The group is divided, and the way in which we support him is divided.
It's a bunch of like well-to-do adults, and like we can't get our shit together.
I just want to be comfortable in my own skin, in what I own and in what I have, in the friends I have.
Freedom can really only be attained when you surround yourself with people and places where you feel safe.
Now, let me tell you one thing. If you have everything but you don't have freedom, you'll never enjoy.
Thank you.
I love it so much. I love that trailer. And I actually, the first thing I wanted to ask you when I first watched the trailer first was the name, the title. How did you come to that title? Did you always know that that would be the title? Can you give us a little bit of background around that?
Yeah, we had that from like the beginning, right?
Yeah, it was, I mean, we sort of looked at this, like the whole film for us when we started doing this, we wanted to create a portrait of the queer community today. And it was just going through the process of trying to like, what would be the starting place? How would we tell a story about our community that was like intersectional and inclusive and showed a broad breadth of of the LGBTQ experience?
For sure. Who are we? Where are we? Where are we going?
And we had known, like, I mean, Rainbow Refugee. Should we back up? Should I just give like a brief description of the film? Like what's it's about? I know people just watched the trailer.
I mean, I'm gonna jump right into after the title was to ask you around how you came about this story and how you found it, and was it something, you know, how did it all brew up to what it is today?
Okay, and we'll come back to the title because it'll all play into how we full circle. The film itself, I mean, as you sort of saw in the trailer, it follows 11 strangers from the queer community here in Vancouver who unite to help Drake, who is a fun-loving gay man from Uganda, escape violence and persecution in his home country and build a new life in Vancouver. And it's like, for us, it's a film, as you mentioned, it's really a film about freedom. And it's also a film about so many different layers of community and the power of community when people come together to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And like the genesis for us, I mean,
yeah, it was 2015 when we were first talking to the NFB, and we wanted to tell a queer story, and we were kind of looking around and looking. It was just like the temperature at that time. Trump was coming to power. There was a lot of anti-immigration, a lot of anti-refugee rhetoric. The Syrian crisis was happening. People were coming over from Chechnya. So there was just a lot of this in the air. And I think to combat that, there was a lot of people supporting organizations like Rainbow Refugee in Vancouver and Rainbow Railroad in Toronto. And just seeing these people that were coming together to help somebody just really spoke to us. And we thought that there was a story there. So we pitched the NFB. The NFB liked that. We started to do research, and we started to like visit other circles and people that have been through the process. And by the end of that process, we were like, there's something here.
And for us, I mean, we had seen like so many people in our community have done this, right? They formed a group, you see them posting on social media year after year. And it's always something that's been in the background where we know queer people do this. And then we're like, how do we do a portrait of our community? And then this is it, because it's going to bring so many people who you'd never ever find together, 10 or 11 of them from so different walks of life all over the city. And suddenly they're all put together. And the one thing they have in common is they're members of the queer community. And we're like, this is it, right? Like, I don't even know how we'd ever get this group of characters, this kind of story anywhere else.
And so that full circle, Someone Like Me, kind of forms from that title.
And what we can say too is like interesting during filming, because we had this film title that we didn't share with anybody. And as we began interviewing and getting deeper and deeper into the process, we shot over 15 months, people would just say it. I mean, Marlon, one of the sponsors in the film, when we asked, who do you envision sponsoring? Because like when you get involved in this process, you don't know the person's gender identity, their sexuality, where they're coming from in the world. You know nothing about them, and then it's like months later that it's the United Nations Human Rights Commission sends like three candidates that you select from. So when we're asking people in the beginning, who do you picture sponsoring? And Marlon said, someone like me. Like I couldn't even finish the question. He just said it just like that.
Yeah.
And then later on,
Drake said it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Drake was like, if this can help somebody like me, then it's worth it. And that's when he agreed to participate in the film. So it was interesting that people kept on repeating it back to us. And we were like, this makes sense.
This is a good title.
Wow, I love it. And I feel like it also can work in different ways when you say someone like me, like either, just by who you want to sponsor, or who, like all of that, or in reference of like, I just want, and I use that as well when I think about why I am a filmmaker and why I want to make films that I want to make. And in recent events of like a lot of the Asian hate around, like has really dehumanized many Asian women. For me, like my whole legacy of just like wanting to make stories and put stories out there is to humanize my lived experience, so that someone like me, I would say someone like me can be able to see that, to watch that, to grow up with being able to see themselves represented, to see a full story, So I love the title. I think that it plays into so many different ways, not just, in the context of the film, but also outside of it as well, which I thought was really beautiful and well connected, full circle.
But we would say too on that though, like when you think of the queer community, like the queer identity in many ways is like an identity of longing, right? Like just the idea of someone like me, most queer people aren't born to straight parents. It's like you meet queer people much later in your life. And like for us, the era that we grew up in, you grow up feeling like you're the only person, you're the only one, constantly thinking, oh, if I could just meet someone like me. And it's
right.
See that still reflected like all these years later, and it's still something within our community that you just want that sense of connection and community.
Exactly. And we'll bring into the apology and the grandmothers, the moment grandmothers knew that they weren't the only survivor, that they were the only one, that there was someone like them that had gone through that. Again, bringing that, when you talk about community and when we even think about what community looks like, and how it's just the identity of just like not being the only, right? And what I found so incredible was, and I read in one of your interviews that it might be one of the biggest challenges as well, is that you're meeting everybody all at the same time while you're shooting. This film is, to the definition of verite, like you're following that 12-month process, that commitment that the circle group has committed themselves, but also you're doing the same thing. You're also committing to this 12-month process too, which again, like you can make a making of the making of the making of the documentary, its own story. Can you guys tell me a bit about that process around like deciding like to document that full 12-month process and that commitment to this group?
Mm-hmm. Do you want to start at we should start at the beginning. It's like we wanted to honor how these groups come together with Rainbow Refugees. So they do a group at a time, they form one, and then they move on to the next. So it's like you have this brief window where they had 2 weeks to form the group that we're going to film with. We started production with without knowing who anyone was going to be in the film.
We didn't know if the newcomer Drake was going to film with us. We didn't we had
no relationships with any, a little bit with Rainbow Refugee from talking to them over the years, but like the 11 people that you see in the beginning of the film, they did not know us. They did not know each other. There's a meeting scene that happens right at the beginning of the film when they meet each other. We were already in the room.
First day of production
with cameras in the back, and then they all file in.
That room, so that first shot is the first time you meet everybody.
They meet each other, and it's just like a whole camera crew, and they're like, right? It is so intense. All the people who did this are in the film. All the subjects are just incredible.
For sure. Yeah. And then one of the most beautiful things, and I think you were kind of talking about that, is as the relationships are developing between the people in the group, it's also developing with us. And so over time, things are getting closer between us, and we're beginning to things are opening up, and we're learning about them, and they're learning about us. So it's this whole process that takes place over 12 months, and it's just it's interesting.
I'm so curious around the selection of the circle group. They bring the strangers all together, and it's just random strangers or people that are connected in kind of just timing. It just kind of falls into place.
Groups form in different ways. So sometimes it'll be a group of people who have already formed their friends, and they come to Rainbow Refugee and they say they want to do this. Sometimes it'll just be a couple or a single person that says, I want to help, and then they will match people together. And they try to form these circles and get them moving on.
And everyone just agreed that they would be documented during this process at the same time.
We had chatted, and I think we had one meeting with everybody before. I'm not sure that they
2-week period where we went out for coffee and just said, this is
what we're doing.
And out of respect for everyone, it's we can say this as filmmakers because we know what's going to happen. But when you say, oh yeah, we're going to film with you for 12 to 15 months and show up 3 times a month, and it's everyone's yeah, I want to do this because I believe in the cause, but you never really know.
You never really know. Yeah.
Right.
Even when my mother agreed, she didn't really know. She got sick of her own daughter pretty much when we landed in Taiwan. She was like, get that fucking camera out of here. And that was my mother, so I can't imagine. I mean, maybe strangers are a little bit more polite and they're talking crap behind your back, but yes, 100% the challenge around that first commitment. And then you're working with so many different people, which I found so incredible about your film is that there are so many characters, but it's also so intimate and so personable at the same time. And I want to talk a little bit because I know that in your filming process during that 12-month, COVID hits as well. So that adds another layer to it. But I think maybe this is a good time to introduce one of the characters, Kay, right?
Yeah.
To that clip so that we can talk a little bit more about specifically some of the characters.
Let's do it.
Do you want to give a little brief about Kay before we play the clip, or do you want to maybe play the clip and then?
For us, I'm always let's play the clip first so people can go and just learn.
Yeah, and then we go.
Yeah.
I'm into it too. All right.
My day job is as an immigration and refugee lawyer. My specialty is really in the refugee world. And so this week I'm representing a new family from Central America, and the family is of 10 people, and they all showed up in this little office. Then they all spoke Spanish, and I've taken Spanish for 9 months. It was atrocious. I went in very confident, and about a sentence later I was like, and then did Google Translate. Kate speaking. My bachelor profile would be like sexy job, no money. That would be my bachelor profile. Like the good person who just wasn't good enough. Unless then the bachelor or the bachelorette is Emily, who is like, oh, that's fantastic. It's like the more queer and weird you are, the more I like it. Then it works. Emily's sister-in-law and I went to law school together. And so that's how we first met. Never been the same since. And I ask Emily to marry me every day.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't want to get married.
Yeah. But if I did want to get married, you would be the person.
I keep asking, dude.
Okay.
So sweet.
Love them.
John, would you like to tell us a little bit more about Kay? Kay and Emily, or is Kay? Kay and Emily, the package deal, I guess, and why you want to share that clip specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can't watch it without smiling ear to ear.
For sure.
That's just like, that's how they are in real life. It is, anytime they're in a room, there's like a spotlight, because that's just the people they are. They're so charismatic. They're great. Yeah. And Kay, earlier when the circle forms, no one knows who's going to be the leader or the facilitator. Pretty close to the start of the movie, the group of people who are sponsoring Drake selects Kay to lead the circle for the year-long process. And Emily is their partner, and Emily is a medical student, and they're this kick-ass queer couple. And when you talk about representation and stories and lives that people should see, they should see Kay and Emily.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
They are literal heroes, and the empathy and how they are in real life is an example that everybody should follow. So we had a choice. They had to be featured heavily in the film.
And also, I don't want to give away too much in the film. Do I want to? Can we do that? Are we doing that? Are we doing like spoiler alert here? I have to be mindful of it. But okay, maybe we can we share? I don't know. Can we share that they that they lead the circle? So that also means that they host Drake as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a part in the process. It depends on the groups that do this, but there's a part, often the newcomer who comes to Canada will stay with somebody from the sponsorship group for a couple of weeks before getting like short-term accommodation or long-term.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, K and M are just the people who would give their shirts off their backs for somebody, and they volunteer and offer up their house for Drake to land in. Yeah, I mean, you get a sense for who they are. They're funny, they're so giving, so kind. Yeah,
we couldn't have done this film without them.
And then we should say, for a character story too, I mean, there's a love story that happens across the film.
Yeah, it's grossly sickening love story of any more love that squishes out of that screen. And it's, but although I found I didn't know if you knew prior to, obviously you didn't know, but what your characters were going through also at the same time, because the circle group was, obviously presented to you that first day, and to know that Kay is also going on their own journey, getting top surgery, and also, all of your other characters are going through something. How did you process all of that, and how was that process when you are sifting through in the editing and when all of this is kind of unraveling right before you? How did you guys process that and glue it all together?
It was tricky we had an interesting production window and then editing window. We started post in April, I guess, and we were still filming. So we didn't finish filming until October, November. We were filming the story and like truly following it. We didn't know how it was going to end. We didn't know what was going to happen.
There's a couple of things though, because from all the research we did, we knew what would happen over 12 months. So like the A story where the group comes together, there's going to be an ending when they are no longer responsible for Drake, right? Like you knew that there's a beginning and an end and some stuff that happened in the middle. but like the sort of B story with all the characters and what their journeys were going to be, no idea. It's like literally like every week we would sit down, talk about it. I mean, Steve and I live together, so we talk about it all the time as the film progressed. Right?
Really, like every day.
You know. But we would, as like month 3, we'd start writing, like I would start writing like little short stories about each of the people, just to sort of say like, okay, so let's wrap our head around what's happening in everyone's lives and start to see if there's patterns. What can we explore? What should we, what are the sort of storylines that would carry us through a whole year?
And then we'd jump in and begin to ask them about it. And sometimes the storyline wouldn't even go anywhere. So then we would have to like kind of like recalibrate and be like, so maybe we can move this way and begin to look at this. So it was really just like trying to weave the story and just kind of follow it and massage it as we were moving through production.
And then working with Graham Q, our editor, like he was good. Yeah, he was a story guy. Like it was such a good match all around for us.
Yeah.
And he saw stuff like we had like a good idea of the character journeys as we were directing, as we got deeper and deeper, but he found parallels between people that we didn't see even when we were close to wrapping production, and he just brought in this like whole level of story and craft, and it was such a pleasure to work with him.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that these parallel journeys that we're watching unfold during this, like, as we know, like beginning of this 12-month commitment, and even just how the group is documented in all of its vulnerability and all of its imperfection. And I think that so much of the responsibility, I guess, as a documentary filmmaker is like not fearing the imperfection. And if anything, tells us more about the story, tells us more about the characters, tells us more about the reality of like the asylum seekers and the relationship with the supporters, and who are these sponsors, and what their commitment is, and the reality of like how much what that entails, and both mentally, physically, all of it. And I think that peeling off that, like, you know, wedding filter phase of like, we did good, look at us, we did something awesome, to this is the work that goes behind it, and the things to consider. And with that, I think that Drake's character, wow. I mean, even when I met him for the first time on screen, it's like you almost go on this like exciting journey the moment, like, I don't know, for some reason I was like imagined like what it would look like for him, right, when he first lands here, and it's like he's gonna have an awesome time, you know, and then it really, you start unpeeling it back, and then of course COVID hits, so a lot of your story really packs in so many different crazy stuff that has been unexpected to all of us as human beings, but like specifically for Drake's journey. I'd love to share Drake's clip, if that's okay. We can do that now.
Do it.
You guys can tell me more about the process and also the things that you've also learned from that journey. Ryan, can we cue up Drake's clip?
Hi, how are you?
You worked in the salons before?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, cool.
But not here. The job thing stresses me up, but I just had to swallow it. And I'm like, you know what, Drake, you're a one man's island, because I've always solved my issues alone. At the end of the day, it has always been Drake. I don't think about that I don't have a job. I think about where am I going to get the job. I gave up everything. I gave up my life, I gave up my family, I gave up my friends, I gave up like everything. And I had no idea what I'm getting myself into. You understand? In my life, I've always been insecure about my sexuality. I've never been insecure about my color. But in Canada, it scares me right now more than I'm scared about my sexuality. And right now, about my sexuality, honey, I'm not scared about that anymore, because I feel like I'm free to express myself how I love. But I'm so scared about my life and my skin and everything, because it has happened to me, and it was so Couldn't sleep. Couldn't open my window at first. I was so scared to walk this direction. I was so scared to walk different direction. But I think the life we're living in, life has never been fair. So it will eventually pass.
Wow. There's so much to say about that clip. I want to hear from the both of you around choosing that clip and what it means to you, and just really you're getting to know Drake for the first time the moment he lands in Canada, and watching this person who's fleeing persecution, landing here, adjusting, giving up everything to now face for the first time in his life as an adult, racism, discrimination for being a Black man. Can you tell us about that, about the process of meeting Drake and following him for 12 plus months?
Yeah. I mean, well, how do you want to start? And we don't want to give away too much about the film either, but there's sort of two large turning points in the documentary, and when Drake arrives, that is one of them. And there is, when you have a group of complete strangers who come together who don't know each other, and you all make this commitment together. There is something in that, right? Like there's going to be conflict. It's not like a group of your friends. Some people think of the queer community as this, everyone's left wing, so progressive. It's like the queer community is as diverse as every community with whole different worldviews. And a lot happens when Drake arrives. And we asked at that time the sponsors, they're all in their 20s and 30s. They all have full-time jobs. They're working work weeks like everyone else, and we were making this film and said, hey, listen, do you want help? Like we can spend some time with Drake, no cameras.
Show him around the city.
Spend some time with him during the weekdays.
Driving around Vancouver, he's in the back seat and he's listening to all the songs that are on the radio. He knows he's wailing to Sam Smith. He's having like the best time. He watches all the same shows that we do on Netflix, and we're beginning to have this realization that the world has become such a small place because of the internet. We're all so connected, and I think that we kind of get lost or we don't think about that when we're over here, and we're worlds apart, but we are closer. And just watching Drake kind of progress through life and trying to find his footing here was it was interesting.
I think everyone has these preconceived ideas about asylum seekers and refugees and immigrants. And this is one of the takeaways for us from this film is, you know what, I don't know, throw that all out the window. And then also I just hope that people really do have a sense of empathy for what newcomers to this country go through. It's not like their problems are solved when they get off an airplane and arrive in Vancouver or Toronto or elsewhere. It is like they have their struggles, they're processing through life, and it's just the start of a new chapter. And like this is definitely in Drake's story. We see, it's just
he talks about racism and how it affects him, and it was our job to show up, to acknowledge the experience, believe the experience, talk about the experience, and make sure that it's true to him. It's so shitty that it's happening, and it's so shitty that it's happening to him. We're watching it. It's just, I don't know. It really makes you think about Canada.
Well, it's watching that in the film, and again, I'm gonna watch the spoiler alert. I did, have a glass of wine, so excuse me if I slip something out, but with Drake teaches us so many things also, and especially when we talked about the theme around freedom, and for him and his journey. One thing that I found so inspiring about his his character is just like trying to find optimism in it, like just trying to like, it's like, it's not like I don't have a job, it's like what will I find, it's like so much of just like the way that he's also living in the present of what he just needs to do. I've been reading Eckhart Tolle and New Earth, don't get me started, but like, yeah, I'm really into like, the consciousness of being present, but also, really learning from Drake's experience and ongoing experience, right? Of what he's going to do, how he's going to make do, and really with everything happening and everything that he's facing, it is such an inspiring story. And just his laughter and smile to me is just like, how do you try to be so positive or still try to find some light of it, light of positivity at the end of the day for me, and maybe because he is still experiencing it, and maybe it is as it goes along, but I just found him just to be such a remarkable person that I would love to one day meet and also party with too, with you guys as well. Everything goes back to like me wanting an excuse to just party. Yeah, it's been a long time for all of us, right?
For sure.
I do want to talk about queer representation on screen and behind the camera, and what that means to our community and to everyone else, and why we need it more. Can you guys talk about this journey, because I know this isn't your first film where you touch on various queer subject matters and highlighting it from different perspective, but can you tell me why it matters, why we need more of it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's representation's just so important. I think like even just recently, like last week, I was on the cover of my hometown newspaper, and it's like I'm from like a town of like 1,500, 2,000 people. It's really small. And somebody had written me and said, I know that them seeing this paper has given somebody hope, and you begin to realize like they're just by standing up and saying, hey, I'm gay and I'm from here, it changes people's lives, and it does provide hope.
She said like there are kids in this town.
I know that there's kids.
You've given them hope for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
it's powerful. Why we make these movies and why we wanted to make this too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is.
Well, I think the Queer Intentions, Amelia Abrams, she has this great book, and she's kind of looking into the future where queerness is going. And she looks at this, she cites this kind of research that was done in California during the marriage equality. And they had found that if somebody had met a queer person, they were more likely to vote in favor of their rights. So, and it's just like one meeting. So it doesn't take a whole lot. So if we can create films that create that connection, have an atmosphere where a wider audience can see it, there is a possibility to change somebody's mind. And like, that is so important to us. And that's what we're trying to do.
There's another part in that book too. They had another study that was done, I think like 2 years ago or so, where they surveyed a broad section of the queer community and asked, do you hold hands or kiss in public? And over 50% said no, because wow. I'm scared. And this is in like Canada, the US, the UK. So there's like, I mean, Canada is a great place. There's like undeniably, it's like queer rights in this country have improved so much, but it's like this, when we're telling queer stories and stories about our community, it doesn't stop at marriage equality or the 90s or the 80s or the 70s. It's like we want to tell films about now, because it's still ongoing. Like this is
for sure. And this film can play because we are so connected by the internet. People can watch this around the world. Like, what is it? Over 70 countries right now. It's still illegal to be gay. Like,
or you can be murdered.
Right. So there's still so much work to do, and being able to show this experience outwards is really important.
I mean, I think, people might hate me for saying this, but I found that like doing that, starting with our first festival that was like really in the whole like virtual everything. Yeah, I hate that I'm missing out on happy hour. I hate that I'm missing out with physically connect. Everyone thinks I'm probably an alcoholic. That's why not true. I could literally only handle 2 glasses of wine. Hans knows I'm drunk after that. So it's not that. It's just like, yes, I miss all the physical connection of it. But what is really remarkable about virtual festivals right now is the access that people wouldn't have been able to have had access to the film. So like during TIFF for me, it was like most people could barely get a ticket during TIFF, and
For
barely
sure.
anybody gives a crap about, you know, documentaries during TIFF, or let alone a short doc. So I did find this way of connecting and being able to release films during a festival circuit where actually more people who don't normally could attend these festivals are getting access to it, are finding a way to watch it, which is really exciting for me to see. And this film specifically, as you said, it's like how it can get out there wider. You know, the fact that we do have the internet today is incredible around how the stories are going to reach a wider audience, especially even like at the very beginning in the festival circuit round, which I think is great. And I think smaller communities that don't get down to Toronto to watch the film at Hot Docs will have an opportunity as long as there is some connection to Wi-Fi, right? So there's a little, you know, it's just like Drake, just trying to find a little spark at something, trying to find a little positive in this pandemic.
There's always light to the dark.
There's
right?
always a little bit, right? I wanted to talk about a bit of the technicality around, you know, filming during the pandemic. As you know, that I also made a film during the lockdown, which was tested all of my wits. And I'm sure a lot of the DGC members here, some of them are directors as well, probably are also facing the challenges of how to film or what they've gone through. Tell me about what it did to you guys, and because you guys were committed for the 12-month process, what did that do for you guys, and how did you guys work around it?
One thing, I mean, it helps if you have a really good producer. So I do want to shout out to like Shirley Vercruz and Terry Snellgrove at the NFB. They like, this is for how films go, no one would greenlight this documentary. You don't know anybody. You can't film for part of the pandemic. Like seriously, you don't know if
You
like
guys are the best sales team, man.
Right?
We don't know any of them. We've never met them, but we're gonna make a movie.
And Shirley and Terry are like, yes, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be terrible and stressful, but the end result is gonna be beautiful. Like they supported us, like
For sure.
in our creative vision. They're behind us the entire time.
I stuck by it.
Endlessly thankful to them.
Yeah. And so when it came to the pandemic, it was, I mean, we were scrambling. We were like, we need to continue. So we came up with the idea of getting an iPhone, and we would drop it off at the subject's house. It would be in plastic bags and everything was sanitized. And then we give them a list of questions. And then we would give them kind of like little scenes that they could film, and we'd leave it for them for a week. And then we'd pick it up and we'd sanitize the phone, we'd offload it. And then the coolest thing was when you offload the footage and you start looking at it, it's like a treasure, right? Like you're like, oh, what is this? And you begin to like go through and you're seeing all this footage, you're seeing how they present themselves.
All these people you think you know so well after like 8 months of filming, and then you learn still this other layer on top of like how they want to see themselves represented, and what time of day do they film, and what are they capturing around, like just like yeah.
And Drake.
Oh yeah, and Drake, like we had no like, I don't know, like we just had no idea he would film typically between midnight and 4 a.m. And this was like, we're like, oh, he's a night owl.
But then when we figured it out, it was because all of his friends in Uganda are up at that time. That's daytime. Right. So he's always up at night. So he's like, his job that he has right now is it's a night shift.
Oh, well, I found it incredible. I did see, it was so interesting because you're watching literally time lapse as well as your relationship grow. And you're seeing the different access that you're actually getting the relationship through the relationship, you're getting more intimate. But what I found interesting with the cell phone footage from Drake specifically was like, vulnerability is so interesting, especially, and now if you're in control and you're documenting yourself there, to me, it also tells another layer to the story, that nuance around how they present themselves and how they're shooting themselves, where I was like trying to picture myself in both of your shoes around like not knowing what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You know? And getting to know them in this other like layered way where it's still like, it's almost like, okay, after the performativeness of like, they know that they're turning this on, they have to look a certain way, but there's always that in between right? It's always that setup. It's always that in between that I feel and I'm fascinated. And I always say that sometimes it's not what they say or what they do. It's like when they don't do anything and when they don't say anything, that those nuances tell you so much of what they're going through. And I really saw that in the cell phone footage, and in many ways probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic to
For sure.
have
Even with
any reason. I mean, I know some people tell subject matters to, here's a cell phone, document yourself, la la la. But this was a real practical safety reason of like, here's a phone, here's some questions if you can, document the process. So and during all of that, what they're going through, and really isolation, again, bringing back to that theme of your film around freedom, all of this. We're all kind of, again, the cliche of like, we're all in this together, of like, we're all all of it is off the table for all of us, and we're all living collectively in this, but some more than others. I found that the way that you guys, I'm not going to spoiler alert, not telling the film, but I just thought it was such an incredible way of sewing the story together and being able to get yet another perspective of what they're going through, what every one of the characters are going through, without losing the arc and momentum of the film.
For us too, there's like this, for some of the, when you think of universal portions of this film that everyone will relate to, definitely the pandemic footage.
For sure.
I mean, when everyone's lives, all of the subjects in the film had goals and desires for the
Dreams.
year that turns upside down. And like some of my favorite moments in the towards the end of the film are like David and Brenda, two of Drake's sponsors. Brenda like secretly filming David at work, and her setting up, like, she's an artist and sets up this beautiful frame
So
where she can
Vanderleer?
talk to camera. Or when, and I don't want to plot spoil either, but when K&M gets some really good news, and they film themselves after getting the good news, and it's like you just see people's lives in such an intimate way we would never have been able to film, ever. So I'm glad you felt that way.
I did. I was with them. I want to be mindful of time, and there has been questions coming in. I just wanted to get through some of mine first. But just being mindful of time, I'd love to jump into some of the questions that we have here. Okay, first of all, full disclosure, Alfred apparently is a mutual friend of ours.
Oh, really? You know Alfred?
Yes. So
what's up, Alfred?
What's up, Alfred? So Alfred asked us, what actions do you two want viewers to feel empowered to do after watching Someone Like Me? Great question, Alfred.
It is. I think like one of the takeaways, that there's a couple things that we didn't set up at the beginning. Canada is the only country in the world that has a refugee program that specifically targets and helps queer people around the world find asylum in Canada. So that's something every Canadian should be really proud of. Secondly, it is one of the only countries in the world where private citizens like you, me, and Steve could come together and do this tomorrow and say, we're going to sponsor someone, we're going to raise money, we're going to change their life and help them build a new life in Canada. And this is a takeaway. Anyone who watches this film, I mean, I hope at the end of it,
you need to watch the movie first, though.
Right? Or not. Rainbow Refugees Waiting. So you can just say yes now. But like anybody,
everybody watch the movie. Like this is an incredible film. It's an incredible film. So watch the movie first to understand.
Anybody can do this, right?
Sure.
Anybody can do this in Canada. And even if you watch the film, which they should watch, you're right. And I like the way that you keep on.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to be in a sponsorship group, you can donate money. And that this specific cause, your money will change someone's life. 100% direct to that person, change them.
For sure. Yeah. And then for me, I think it's just a greater sense of empathy for asylum seekers, people who immigrate to Canada. It's a tough journey, and I think people are coming here for the right reasons, and I don't know, it's a tough journey to do, and I think people should just be more appreciative of it.
We have another question in here from Michael. Did the Black Lives Matter movement impact the direction of the film?
I'd say 100%.
I think it would.
Some you'll see towards the end of the film during COVID. That's definitely, and I think it is part of that clip that we watched with Drake. I think that is a huge reason.
It's
why
weird
he
because
spoke to us.
yeah, and it all kind of like ties into one another. But yeah, I definitely think it had an effect on the direction of the film.
And we just always just tried to show up for Drake and create space for him to share whatever he felt comfortable with. I mean, that was our goal for everyone, especially for Drake, is to just say, we're here.
Yeah.
And not again to spoil the film, even though now I feel like I've spoiled so much of the film. But what I love that because you're really chronologically documenting the 12-month, and in that process of it, pandemic hits, but also there are several monumental moments and things that are happening globally in our world, and specifically in North America, that you're also capturing as well, including the Black Lives Matter movement. Like there is moments of that really affect Drake's, experience, which again, we rarely get to see that in film of someone new to Canada, who's never faced that type of discrimination before, being a Black man in his country, but is facing that today and through George Floyd. Like it is something you don't ever get to get an inside perspective on, and to be able to have that opportunity, I can't speak more like how valuable that is for all of us. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, whatever. It really is for all of us to understand the magnitude of it and the way that it affects us, like as a global community. And again, that's why everyone needs to go watch this movie. Another question we have is, where are you finding inspiration right now?
Satan. Because of our next film. We've spent many months researching satanic cult conspiracies, and it's for our project with
Didn't realize it was going to go there.
Oh yeah.
So true. It's real.
Four decades worth. So this is what we've been working on, and
yeah, just getting outside, knowing that this is going to end, knowing that this isn't forever. Just keeping on.
Like, what do you guys talk about outside of film when you guys are like, I don't know, eating, or is it just always about work and film and the next idea? Is that what?
We talk about everything. I mean, we're like students of pop culture. All we do is look around us and talk about everything. I mean, we just go on long walks all the time. We just fucking talk the whole time.
We have thoroughly analyzed all of our immediate neighbors, including the ones across the street, because we've been in here so much. It's like everyone else. So we've constructed whole narratives about their lives.
They all have names.
Yeah, all have nicknames. We have no idea what their names are, but yeah.
True storytellers. That's why I love airport waiting areas. Obviously, I miss it a lot tremendously, but I love crafting out stories inside my head before I get on the plane, like why you're coming, why you're leaving, and all like the drama that's happening. Like, there's always a little drama between certain couples flying, and it's like body language of how they sit together, or how like the couple, one person like never looks up while the other person's like, just like calling our plane. No, honey, they're not calling our plane. I think they're calling our plane. Anyways, I love people watching and crafting out stories for them. It's one of my favorite pastimes pre-pandemic. We have another question. Did the film end up being what you anticipated, or did it change a lot as you went along?
Oh, it definitely changed. I mean,
did it?
Well, the two big turning points in the film, we didn't see either of those coming, and they were, in some time, like shook us down to the ground to question whether or not we could keep going or even finish this. COVID being one of them, and after Drake arrived being another one, where I know there's a point too where there was a discussion within the NFB if we should film a different group of people. Was another thing that was on the table at one point.
So just scrap 5 months and then start over again. And we were like,
yeah, which understandable, but I'm really glad
that was really on the table too.
We had to look at like all the options, right? And we just had to like discuss like where were we at and what we were doing.
And I'm glad that we didn't, because like we all believed in this project. Everyone at the NFB believed in it. We all banded together. All of the subjects said, we believe in this. We are doing this, and we saw it through and
soldiered on.
Yeah, it got finished.
I mean, man, that's incredible.
My hair was brown before this.
Well, that's actually, someone made a comment. Adam wrote, "Love the new hair, Steven." Which, Adam, I also made a comment when I saw Steve today on Zoom. I was like, "Oh, your hair looks a little different." He told me it was the sun in Vancouver, but I know we don't have a lot of time left here, and I really wanted to, obviously if this was just you and I want to gossip a little bit more about your working process as filmmakers, but I'm curious around like your roles around, do you guys switch up a bit around like who's the writer, who's taking the lead in writing? And is it you, Sean, that you're primarily the editor, or do you guys both edit? Like, is it everything 50-50 in terms of, and how has this film switched up any of the roles that you guys normally take with one another?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, you do all the writing. I have input during it. I kind of feel like Sean takes on a bigger portion at the beginning, and then I take on a bigger portion at the end. And then in between the 50%, we're kind of like back and forth. Yeah, it's a weird.
Well, this is also the benefit of working with your partner, is that really it's like, I mean, filmmaking is all the times people are like, it's a marathon. It's like, it is a marathon. And at least when one of us is like, okay,
I can't go on. I can't go on.
The other one has to kick it into gear and compensate. So, but yeah, I think, I think that describes our process.
I think so.
Okay.
Well, Hans might be giving me the super news.
Get off the stage. Play him out.
And I was just, what's funny? It's like Hans is just protecting you, because I was about to go into this thing that I found about don't quit your gay job. And I was like, oh my God, how do I get on that show? Which I found a clip of you, Sean, but we don't need to go into that.
I know, be careful how deep you go. It's the only thing I have to warn you.
Well, the internet allows us to really, our research can go real deep, real quickly. There's some scandalous stuff that I literally had to ask people to delete from my days of bartending and running big queer parties here in Toronto. I'm just
for sure.
You need to take that off. I'm gonna get canceled real quick. Like, it's just, it's funny how sometimes things unearth themselves. But you both have such a fascinating career around how you guys came together, started collaborating together, learned everything through Vimeo, made what was it, over 20 plus short films, and this being your first debut feature length, and your new film that you guys are in development right now, the Satan film. It's not the Satan film. Sorry, what's the title of it?
Satan Wants You. I have to say it like that. Really creepy.
I don't know if you want to say a one-liner of what that film is that people could look out for before we wrap up, because I'm so curious, and I could definitely talk to you hours about what that movie's about. But is there any one-liner?
I'm not allowed to say anything because Sean's like, you'll give it away. So
I would say we are just we're trying to close financing by the end of the summer and start shooting possibly this fall. I'd say follow us on social media, look us up online. We're going to start sharing stuff as we go a little bit closer to getting the financing we need to make it. And but it is it's looking at basically all the things you've been seeing recently here and south of the border, involving satanic cults and conspiracy thinking, again, told over 4 decades. It's what you've been seeing in the past 5 years is not new, and we are going to be filming all about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm thrilled.
Can we just do one throw out for you? I know we have to wrap up. The apology with the NFB is when we were trying to sit down, it's a brilliant, amazing film. The way, how you tell it, and through character-driven storytelling, we're trying to figure out, could we work with the NFB? What are the reference points that are okay, this is the part of the NFB that it's so inspiring. You're seriously one of our favorite filmmakers.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for doing this.
To be doing this with you is incredible. It's big for us.
Love your work.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm so glad that the apology was the litmus test of like, oh, this isn't what it could look like. I mean, I always attribute to the people, it's always the people, not the institution, but the people behind it. And I think we both lucked out on really incredible producers that we get to work with that believe in us. Like I went into the NFB really, I've never made a feature. I barely made a short. Yes, I went to film school, but in terms of like what I was tackling, like what you're gonna film survivors from military sexual slavery in China, Korea, and the Philippines. You've never done a feature before. You also have your own PTSD of your own sexual abuse, all wrapped up into all of that. And okay, we're gonna trust you. It's kind of you just need people to believe in you. At the end of the day, it's you filmmaking is all about a collaborative effort of team. And when you have that right team, that is not going to be a roadblock, but be allies. And again, going back to really the theme of your story, it's like around community and freedom and how do we create the best spaces where we can do that, and the privilege to have an institution like the Film Board with specifically producers like my producer Anita Lee and your producers at the Film Board in BC. Like it's for all the filmmakers still with us tonight. I mean, I can't speak more about like finding your people, finding it and connecting and to make magic together, because for me it's not about the end product, it's all about the process. If you can't enjoy your process in making it and even overcoming a lot of the crazy adversities, why are we in this business? It isn't about it is how because it's real lives that we get the privilege of filming, at the day to day, and it's what keeps me going and why I'm still doing it. I need to find me a Steve or a Sean, because you guys got some sort of magical formula going on by dually tackling this together, co-directing and making films. It's inspiring, and I love being able to also just look at all of the incredible films that you guys have done. And there is so much humor in it and love in it that it is warming. And I do find myself smiling when I'm watching your trailers. I'm like this. Like it's really heartwarming. So thank you both so much for bringing this film to light, allowing us access into, not only this very important subject matter, but like the process of what it looks like for both, the refugee coming here, but also for the sponsors as well, and what that looks like as well, and how we're connected together. I can't say more. Everybody watching, please make sure to get your tickets. Has it sold out yet? Are there tickets available? Do they cap it off in the virtual world? I haven't looked into it yet, but
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Okay, guys, available at Hot Docs April 29th to May 9th. Did I butcher that?
I think so. And then Doxa from May 6th to the 16th, and same with Northwest Fest. So this is our trio. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone at DGC. Hans, Ryan, as always, thank you so much. We hope that the next time we come together, it can be in person safely and with cocktails in our hands.
For sure.
Thank you, Steve and Sean, for this incredible, beautiful film. And look forward to your premiere.
Thank you. Thanks, Tiffany.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Hans.
Bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
I know. Are they going to show themselves? All right, well, now that they're not coming back, cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.